Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Arirang Newsbreak. Live from Seoul, I'm Han Daeun. We begin at the nation's top office before President Park Geun-hye travels to Iran this weekend for a historic summit with the country's president. She chaired a cabinet meeting this morning in which she vowed to return with tangible results to help Korean companies enter the Iranian market. She also called for a full defense readiness against North Korea's provocations. For details, we connect to our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun standing by at Cheongwade. Ji-sun, tell us more.
Hello, Dawn. President Park made note of the rising threats from North Korea, which is reportedly preparing for an exercise targeting a replica of South Korea's presidential office, and reiterated that Pyongyang is capable of conducting a fifth nuclear test at any time now. A National Security Council meeting is taking place as we speak, and officials are expected to confirm the nation's defense readiness.
북한이 추가 핵실험을 한다면 이것은 동북아의 안보 질서를 뒤흔드는 매우 심각한 도발 행위로 결코 용납될 수 없습니다.
Regarding her visit to Iran, President Park vowed to return home with practical deals that will help Korean companies participate in Iran's infrastructure projects aimed at rebuilding its economy. On a different note, the government declared next Friday, May 6th, as a national holiday in a bid to spur domestic spending and boost tourism. That means a 4-day weekend for most people following Children's Day next Thursday. And finally, President Park once again called on lawmakers to pass bills aimed at job creation and economic growth during the National Assembly's final session before the recently elected class of new lawmakers is seated. Back to you.
Thank you, Ji-sun, for that. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, South Korean Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se has called on his fellow foreign ministers to show leadership in dealing with North Korea's ongoing threats. In his keynote speech in Beijing at the 5th CICA meeting, the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia, Yoon hinted that a declaration to be adopted later in the day will mark a milestone in enforcing the 26 members' efforts on non-proliferation. He also said it'll reaffirm the importance of the UN sanctions on the North. Also at the meeting, Chinese President Xi Jinping vowed to fully implement Security Council Resolution 2270. He touted China's efforts to deal with North Korea's provocations and asked other nations to refrain from raising tensions in order to bring about stability in Northeast Asia. On the same day in Seoul, Vice Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol said that if North Korea goes ahead with a widely expected fifth nuclear test, South Korea will push for a new UN resolution that extends the existing sanctions. Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics is all smiles. Bumper sales of its new smartphone models, the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge, led the gains in its first quarter earnings surprise. Kim Min-ji has more.
Is Samsung Electronics back on a roll? According to the company's regulatory filing, its net profit came to over $4.5 billion in the first quarter, up almost 14% from a year ago. Its operating profit edged up nearly 12% to over $5.8 billion, while sales rose about 6% to over $43 billion. The results are almost in line with the earnings guidance released earlier this month, and the operating profit beats market expectations by over $1 billion. Samsung attributed the strong earnings to a better-than-expected performance of its mobile division. The division's operating profit rose over 40% from the year before to $3.4 billion, thanks to strong sales of Samsung's new flagship smartphone models released in March. This marks the mobile division's strongest performance since the second quarter of 2014, after suffering tough competition from global rivals amid market saturation. Samsung's semiconductor arm, another cash cow for the company, posted $2.3 billion in operating profit, down 10% from a year ago due to falling chip prices and a slump in demand. The company's consumer electronics business fared better in the first quarter on the back of better sales of premium televisions. Samsung also says it believes it benefited from favorable foreign currency conditions to the tune of about $400 million as the Korean won traded weaker against major currencies. The earnings report comes a day after Apple saw its quarterly revenue drop for the first time in more than a decade. It saw its revenue slide almost 13% to around $50.5 billion in the second fiscal quarter from a year ago, due mainly to an unprecedented drop in iPhone sales. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And Samsung Electronics says the company will buy back over $1.7 billion worth of shares over the next 3 months. The plan, which will be complete by later this year, includes buying 1.3 million shares and 320,000 preferred shares. The Korean government is gearing up to overhaul its industrial sector with an eye toward longer-term measures instead of quick fixes as a way to revitalize the economy. During an economy-related ministers' meeting on Thursday, the government pledged to grant tax credits of up to 30%, the highest level for research and development investments that companies make in new industries. While the target sectors will be decided within the next 2 months, they're likely to include the Internet of Things, energy-related industries, and smart cars. The government also vowed a new tax credit for facilities investments if the money is used to commercialize new technology. The tax credit will deduct the amount of investment tax by up to 10%. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more news updates coming up at 6 p.m. Korea time.